There's going to be a new ambulance service in Kleberg County. 3 companies were in the running for that. County commissioners today voted to give the contract to the lowest bidder, and that was Allegiance Ambulance Service. A company called AirMed had been providing the service in the county. They were allowed to make a bid for the new contract even though they were going through bankruptcy. The other company vying for the job, Medcare, also had filed for bankruptcy back in 2018. Allegiance happens to be the largest private provider of medical transportation in Texas, and the company is owned by San Antonio billionaire Red McCombs.
And fans